Thank you everyone for showing up. It's so lovely to see familiar faces and new faces. Welcome to the America's Coaching Supervision Network. January installment, the new year. And I have the pleasure of introducing Inga. I think I've known Inga for about 12 years in different roles. Inga's a mentor coach, a coach, a coaching supervisor, a facilitator, a team coach, and so many more other things that I can't list them all. So without further ado, I'm just going to pass it over to you, Inga. And I'll
So,
look after the chat and the letting people in, okay?
okay, thank you, thank you. So welcome. And maybe not many of you know, but my first master's was actually in the drama and theater. And I really wanted to work in a theater and to be a director. That was my dream. But then I was actually working in a theater and I didn't like it too much. So my career completely transitioned. And that was one of my degrees. So when somehow around 2008, I transitioned through different experiences and different things towards coaching. And I discovered that I missed the huge beat connected with psychology. And I thought, where could I study? Where could I learn a little bit more about psychology of a person? And I found a school which was organized by Polish Psychiatric Association. That combined was very interesting because combined something I have never heard about, like psychodrama training, 5-year training, with a psychodynamic and systemic approach. So this psychiatric school actually taught two different approaches with highlight of psychodrama. So for 5 years, I had like a lot of theory, a lot of self-study in a group as a psychodramatist, and I really, really like it. After that, I knew that I don't want to be a therapist myself, but I don't regret doing this school, especially that nowadays, when I look at my career, most of the time what I do team coaching or group supervision, and psychodrama comes very handy there. But the problem is that we've got now what, like 50 minutes, and I wanted to squeeze everything here. And I thought, okay, let's start with some basics. But I know that some of you, I know that Reka already mentioned on LinkedIn that she studied as well a psychodrama. So please, if it's just like a beginner's thing for you, what I'm going to share, be open-minded and still think like how we can apply it for supervision, because the main concept before today's presentation is to actually think about psychodrama as a concept, Jacobs Moreno work as a concept, in order to make supervision, both individual and group supervision, a great reflective space. And of course, it's one of the tools we can use. So I will be sharing my presentation with you. Let me know if you can see it. I will try to move to the presenter view so I can see your faces now. Okay. Can you see the one slide only? Wonderful, because sometimes presenter views still show 2 slides. So, because as I said, we're going to think about integrating psychodrama, and I believe that a lot of you have either practiced it or heard it or had it somewhere in your training. I would love us to be open-minded. However, if you have some more questions about like books, or because there are actually great books about integrating psychodrama in coaching, there are great books in integrating psychodrama into a social work, which are surprisingly useful for group supervision. I'm very happy to recommend, especially that some of them are, I think, available even for free. So because Psychodramatic Association tries to make this the theory and the thing connected with psychodrama more present, and as well finally made the name, because I don't know if you know, but Jacob Moreno, the man behind psychodrama who developed it in 20s, he published his first 8 books anonymously. Once because they were extremely spiritual as well. The concept of psychodrama for him, it was very much connected with spirituality with the concept of values and so on. And I think that he didn't want to, I don't know, contaminate the concept, the philosophy with his name and his personality, because he was not very liked. And one of the problems with psychodrama is that he, as a personality, he was very confrontational, especially against prevailing in 20s psychoanalysis. And being confrontational, sometimes he said things which were not really appropriate and inclusive, let's say it this way. But if you're ever interested, that's my QR code for LinkedIn. I'm responding to messages, but I would like to start with a short quiz. And I'm going to show you a slide in a minute. And the only thing I would like you to do from the slide is to use the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, because that's the options, and answer the question however you feel. Okay, so the question is, which items from this list here, A, B, C, D, E, F, originate from Moreno's psychodrama? And you've got group therapy, observation of group dynamics, role-playing, the empty chair technique, warm-up exercises in an improv theater, and constellation work. And please just share what you think. You might as well choose none of those. Okay, I can see responses here. Yeah, all of them. Very good for some of you. Yeah, surprise, surprise. Actually, if you read one of the best books written by Yalom about the group therapy, they acknowledge that group therapy was invented by Moreno because Moreno was the first one who said that it's not about individualistic reflection, but things happen when we meet together, when people meet in a creative endeavor together somehow. Empty chair technique, so much adapted by some of the different schools as well, was invented by him. Improv theater, especially warm-up exercises, a lot of them. I actually participated 2 weeks ago in the improv theater session training, and I was so surprised that so many warm-up exercises were taken from that as well. So actually, it is interesting to look at Moreno's work from this perspective. Yes, so look from the perspective that he started a little bit different approach to work with a patient, because that was a form therapy there. Yeah, to work with a patient, to work with a person, that it's through group, through body, through experiences, not only dream analysis, not only intellectual reflection, not only association work, like a psychoanalytical work, with a very strong and dominant figure of psychoanalyst. Yes, that was a little bit different. And that's a man himself, Jacob Levi Moreno. And we usually forget about his work, but his work is built, when we say psychodrama, it's hard to separate it from sociometrics. Okay, and sociometrics is another part he developed. Sociometric is the look at the group dynamic. And I think that's extremely useful for us. And through psychodramatic tools, dramatic tools, we can see what's going on in the group on the level of dynamic between people. But unfortunately, as I said, his philosophy directly challenged and contradicted psychoanalysis, which was very well known and appreciated at the time. We are talking about 20s when he started developing it. And he was very much against individualism and as well capitalism. So that's why, as I said, he wasn't very much liked as a person, as a personality, and it impacted the work as well. It's hard to say how much, for example, like 100% Hellinger used in his constellation work, but he admitted to looking at like his field philosophy is very much connected. Like a lot of things are connected with atom concept. Jacob Levi-Moreno used at the time. So what are the key words when we look at Moreno's work? There are, I would say, three. Spontaneity, so let's be spontaneous. Creativity, let's be creative. And here and now experiences. So these are the foundations of his work, yeah? And through these three elements, like here and now, in the moment, we act something out together, we work with our bodies, we share different experiences, we become spontaneous, catharsis happened. And he actually took a term from theater, from drama. Catharsis is the old Greek term, which was believed that people experience when they see dramatic work. Some strong emotions show up in people and they experience catharsis, and it has healing power through them. And Moreno said exactly the same. When we are in the group, we truly meet. We are here together through psychodrama. There is this release of catharsis. So through acting out, we can experience that. The second element connected with that was whole role theory he built around this, being spontaneous, creative here in the moment, yeah? So he said like, okay, we as individuals, we have many different roles in our lives. So we need to explore them somehow. And this creative, spontaneous, dramatic ways of exploring these roles is safer than intellectual, or safer or maybe deeper even than intellectual reflection on those, yeah? Like by exploring in acting. So it's almost like reflection in action around the roles. Through being spontaneous, creative, and here in the moment, a psychotherapist or group supervisor or individual supervisor as well can create this quantitative method of sociometry of measuring different kinds of social relationships. And we can do it as well in the individual supervision. And I think that that's something which team coaches and group supervisors, coaching group supervisors should really study in depth, because sociometry gives us a lot of practical tools to look what's going on in a group dynamic, how to measure it, what's going on with us, what is our roles in this group as team coaches or group supervisors, yeah? And there are two other rich concepts. One is the encounter concept, and encounter is this concept of true meeting of a person through creative play, spontaneous play together with another human being. I have this authentic encounter, face-to-face interaction, where individuals, can experience like themselves fully and genuinely. However, since COVID started, a lot of psychodramatic institutions and associations started to publish their research on the power of psychodramatic tools, or sometimes dramatic tools, because sometimes they use as well this term dramatic tools, in online work. And if you're interested, I can share some of the articles, so they are available for free. And generally, there is a great hope that we can, and I've been trying, I work 90% of time online, that we can have the experience of encounter as well online with a group or with the individual in the session. However, there are certain things we still need to do or act out with our bodies. So it needs, I will be talking about that later, it needs certain contracting, special contracting with clients, yeah, because dramatic work, I generally feel it's going outside of what is known and comfortable for us. And a lot of people feel challenged by that. I was really surprised that in this, like, there were 30 people at my training of improv theater, and 90% said, I'm here to get out of my comfort zone. I'm here to do something which I'm ashamed or I'm worried to do. Yeah, like be out there with people. So it was improv theater, which I connect a little bit with psychodrama somehow. So we need to take this into consideration, that among coaches, supervisees, or team members, if we do team coaching, there will be people we need a special kind of contracting if we want to add some dramatic tools to our work. There is the last concept, which is called tele, and tele is something interesting. I will be more talk more about that, and I think it's a forgotten concept, and some of the specialists might hear of psychodrama might correct me if I'm wrong. But tele is this concept of like sudden connection between, like, it's almost like telepathy, that we meet somebody and we click and something happens, or we suddenly don't like somebody. And by observing teles, like in a group supervision, it could be that if I like my colleague, my co-supervisee ask me to act them out, like to in a role play, to be them, and I suddenly feel that I'm not really fond of this person. Of course, it is the tele happening in the moment, but as well, if we are open, courageous, and talk about this, like limitations or experiences we feel, we explore the tele, it can really, really help us understand what's going on in the human relationship. Okay, so I just, like, I know that I concised everything, but these are the main concept. Yeah, like there are people, they are together, they want to meet truly, they do it through spontaneous, creative here and now experiences. So using role plays, using acting out, sometimes drawing as well, yeah, and using their own bodies in order to do it. But I'm curious, and I have a question now to you. So to activate reflective space, coaching supervisors use different tools. And I'm like, what tools to encourage spontaneity and creativity do you use during your supervision? Anybody eager to share? What do group or individual supervisors do to make sure that there is this element of creative, novel thoughts? And maybe you use some spontaneous tools, something that initiate this spontaneity. You've got images, photo cards in the chat, but you can unmute yourself and speak up, I think. So we can have a true encounter here.
Inga, I have used music.
Music. Tell more about that.
Well, especially in the beginning, to sort of set an atmosphere or a mood. Music sometimes can help people really come together, and the energy from music, depending on, classical, jazz, it depends on what I've used. But it's very, very helpful for people to blend or come together in an energy space.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Sunny. And Maureen, I can see your hand raising.
Yes, I was just going to add, especially when in person, but I have brought, when I've had groups of just 6 or 8 people, bring in the same 6, 8 magazines and have people do a decoupage so that and what is it? Why did you choose that? So it really sort of, is deeper than breaking the ice, but expressing and finding who you are in the group through the same magazine.
Yeah, so
I try to do it online.
Yeah, Maureen, so I can share the experience with that. This is not maybe dramatic tool, but more connected with poetry. There is this concept of blackout poems, that you give people piece of magazine, whatever magazine, and they they black out most of the text and they leave some letters. So the blackout poem is created. I actually did it using Miro, the same page. Everybody got the same page from random magazine, and they used the blackout there. So on, and there were different spontaneous messages about themselves, the same selection of words. Yeah, I can see a lot of great things. Gabby, would you like, or there are a few people talking about colors and drawing. I'm really interested in using colors. So Gabby, would it be possible for you to unmute yourself? Sure.
Yes, one day, I don't know, was Maureen shared with us in group supervision, I remember, a technique that I like is 4 different colors, and the the coach explained her case or his case, and then we start, for example, the one color. I don't remember which one is the first one. Which one is, Maureen, remember?
Yeah, offhand, thank you, Gabby. Well, it's just the primary colors. So as you heard that case, what color showed up for you, and how would you relate that to an emotion? That was sort of the idea. Thank you, Gabby.
No, it was great because I've been using it and I like it.
Mm.
And they express emotions, or what is the risks, or what is the positive issue, or what is the area for opportunity. And it's wonderful because they, as Maureen said, express emotions.
So we have so many different tools to get a person out of their head and get into creative, spontaneous here and now experiences. So how psychodrama does it? So maybe let's look at ABC of psychodrama. So first of all, Jacob Moreno, as I said, in 20s, very interesting figure. I do recommend, if you're interested, to check his biography. He was very controversial, and I think that that the fact that psychodrama is not as popular as constellation work, however, it is the mother, and the sociometry is very much forgotten. Like, there are really few publications. I think the reason is because of his personality. But reading biography of his is very interesting, yeah, somehow. So during psychodrama therapy, a person works through conflicts and trauma of the past by acting out parts of these experiences or roles they had in these experiences. So we can easily think now about, okay, how to translate it. It's not about trauma, but conflict, yes. Challenge, yes. Blind spots, yes. I generally feel that if you want to work with trauma, it's especially in psychotherapy, using psychodramatic elements, you need to be a psychotherapist as well, because there are certain roles which we take on, and psychotherapists take certain roles as well. They can give you a sentence to correct or to help you see the things differently. And with a traumatic work, I think that there might be a lot of different triggers. So here, that's what's going on in psychodrama therapy. But for us, group supervisors and as well team coaches, we can use these tools to work through challenges or conflicts or observe blind spots, yeah, to make visible what is invisible, really. And there is a strong emphasis on specific role a person plays in the story, because the role theory is a huge foundation of what Moreno said. He was very clear about it. Yeah, we've got so many different roles. And I feel that actually looking at this concept with a fresh eye is very useful for supervisors, not only to use during a supervision, but as well for our own work, like supervising our supervision. And I'm going to show you the tool which might be used then to do it. Yeah, there is always a protagonist. So protagonist would be like a main supervisee in a group, the person who brings the case. Yeah, so that's a protagonist. We use the terms from drama, from theater. There are actors, so people who represent the different. It could be people, it could be aspects, it could be something abstract as well, it could be emotion. But very often, you know, at the beginning when we start role playing, it could be just the person, me, for example, and my coach, or me and the leader of this team I'm coaching. Yes, so however you feel comfortable with that. But please remember that actors, they could be different roles of a person, that could be another people in the case, or they could be abstract things as well. So it's like almost, I think the constellation took it from psychodrama. Yeah, this concept could be very, very wide. And there are always 3 steps in the flow process. There is warm-up, hence this physical different exercises we do. So during this stage, the therapist works with a protagonist as well physically, so they can get ready on a physical aspect, but as well they can get ready to think about the case and choose actors, and there is an important element: actor needs to say yes to the role. So it's not like if I say, for example, now Kathleen, I want you to be me in this play. Kathleen might say, no, I don't want to. And it's okay, it's accepted, yeah, because and then in the last part, in sharing, we can discuss what happened, because that's tele. That's like this sudden, no, I don't want this role, or sudden, I'm called to this role. Somebody says, I really want to be this, I'm called to be this part, yeah? So everything is important, but can you see how much courage it takes? I did this self-group of psychodrama for 3.5 years. And for the first year, nobody refused. Because people were like, it was difficult to refuse, even if I was really tired or I didn't want to, or there was something triggering for me, and I knew that this case is going to open like some difficult doors, and I wasn't ready yet to experience that with this group. I didn't do it. So that's why we need a very strong contracting, yeah, that people know from the very beginning that they can say no to being an actor if you don't feel like doing it, for example. And that's important information. Everything is data. That's tele. That's probably something you bring about the case. And then there is action itself, so the stage. And we can create the stage online as well with having some visual board for the stage, and we can have like visual representation of actors if you want. Somebody can draw themselves and then we can move it a little bit. Or we can pretend that the stage is actually the computer of my screen, how I see it right now. And we can still work with our bodies, yeah? If we ask, I can stand up, I can move, I can do something, I can represent the role. So like still action, dramatic action is possible online as well. And the most important element is sharing. And in this sharing, everybody shares. So protagonist, what was in this drama for them, how it impacted them, what invisible things suddenly started to be visible, but as well actors were sharing from their roles, what were happening for them about this emotional effect, and then viewers, the audience as well, non-participants were sharing things that they were sharing these elements with protagonists, and the learning was really, really full. But you can imagine that the full case, it is about 90 minutes of work. So as well, when you contract it, and I think contracting is important with group supervision, we need to open a discussion. Is it okay to dig deeper only in one case during one session? Because sometimes there is an expectation that we do at least 2 or 3 cases in a group supervision, yeah? That people bring something what is alive for them. But for dramatic work, we need a little bit longer if you really want to go the whole flow, like from warm-up, action, and sharing. But we can use the elements. We can use the elements as well of it. That's something which I already told you about the tele and encounter. So especially this tele term, which I told you a little bit about. So concept that describe this connection. And I would say that tele is unseen, but tele is important. Tele is any kind of sudden liking or disliking, comfort or discomfort with the presence of another person or the role. And by exploring these feelings, we can learn a lot about relationships, about ourselves. So that's why tele is so important. So if somebody asks me, I already put it in the chat, but this is how you spell it. And I think it is connected with the word telepathy as well, that we have this connection. So I see a lot of usefulness in looking at tele, exploring the tele. So the sudden feelings, sudden dislikes or sudden likes when we hear the case. And I feel a lot of potential for coaching supervision. So you don't have to use the whole psychodrama, but just exploring the concept of tele and saying like, that's okay. We can have sudden like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't like it. Or if I hear about this client, I dislike it a lot. Or when I hear about this client, I really, really sympathize with them and I take their sides. That that when we explain this concept during group supervision and even individual supervision, people suddenly feel okay with sharing this because that's Stella. It's not that I'm mean, but that's Stella. That's something which we can reflect on, okay? What questions do you have at this time? Before we get into tools. Yes, Jane?
I wrote a concern about what background, experience, or learning do you think we need to be able to play with this?
So you might hear, oh my God, Inga studied drama and she played in a theater, actually, she worked in a theater, and then she did this for many, many years. But I think that if you really want to, like, if you do role plays already, you do psychodrama, not knowing about that. So my philosophy is to, if you do constellations, you actually, like, I'm going to show you some basic tools in a minute. You will be surprised how many of them you already either heard or seen. However, I would encourage us to think how to adapt them. So Jane, if you ask me, would I recommend you to do the whole deep, really deep session to work on trauma? Definitely no. If you don't have psychotherapeutic experience, I wouldn't do it because we need to close the case. It's very important as well in drama, and people who participated in our coaching supervision conference in Orlando, they did vignettes. Vignettes are short stories. That's a safe way of doing it. And vignette I invited people to do then was like working tools and share the most common coaching challenge you experience as coaches and try to act it out for us without words. Even in this, people were releasing physically themselves from roles. And that's what we have to do even online. When I ask you, Jane, to be my character, you have to release from a role. So imagine that we actually start discussing something really traumatic. I leave you in the middle of it with some insight. I don't release you from this role, and it will create a lot of I think challenge later on. Yeah. So I would encourage you to think role play, basic role play is great. Sociometry, something I'm going to show you, is very useful for us. And we need to, like, I would love us to talk more about it. Like, sociometry is the part of psychodrama which we need to be aware of, because it's about understanding what's going on in the team dynamic, and as well concept of tele. Because if we introduce it this way, it is safer for people to talk about difficult emotions they feel or they experience during group supervision towards each other or towards the characters in cases.
Thank
and
you.
I think make it easier. And as well, you know, thinking about some spontaneous ways to use body in a session. That's as well dramatic, yeah? Like, you know, instead of what's going on with you, maybe show me what's going on in you, yeah? Like, and everybody can use it in a room or hear visually, like what's going on with you. Like, this is actually a psychodramatic act.
I use that a lot in my coaching and supervision.
Yeah. So
yeah.
that's why I said Moreno is forgotten, unfortunately, because he wasn't a nice person. Interesting to read about, but not very nice. Okay, so let me show you a few tools which I feel might be important, with highlighting that we need to contract using some sociometric and dramatic tools with participants before we start supervision. I would say especially about using body. So if you want to encourage people, like I will encourage you to show me something with your body, let's talk about it in the contracting. Let's make it obvious or sure that we're going to do it. It's very important, I would say. It's crucial. So now when I show you the social atom, the most basic sociometric tool, you see it and you probably have heard about it, or you've seen it, or you did something similar with not the name, but that's 30s. The social atom is a fundamental instrument in sociometry. So basically we use this for assessment tools for individual, but as well group work, because we can draw it in a group. By inviting people to show how something looks like. And actually, I I'm using open-ended tools here to show you what is typical to use in sociometry. So female is a circle, male is triangle, transgender or non-binary gender person is a star, object or entity is a square, deceased person, we send up with dotted line, and then we want to show how the relationship looks like. So when the line is straight, is connected relationship, then there is a lost relationship or conflictual relationship. And then some of you who've got systemic background might say like, but that's a sociogram. But originally it was called social atom. And it was probably because physics was huge at the time. That's why they were all atom. And I feel that this is a very simple tool, which by using with the clients, we can help them to see something. At the same time, I would say it is a very useful tool for me as a supervisor to do this self-reflection after group session, that I can create this social atom of the group supervision, and me as a supervisor in the middle, and what's going on in this relationship with me. Of course, you would be surprised that sometimes deceased people show up in this diagram because somebody talks about the person or a person who is not present here. And I find it very useful because even though I would love to be in a great relationship with everybody and not to be triggered by somebody, but as a group supervisor as well, I have conflictual relationships or something, I'm losing the relationship with somebody, or some people have stronger relationship, like something is going on there. So the social atom is an excellent tool. And I would definitely encourage us to use more, and maybe not only in supervision. Do you see, or maybe somebody uses it already under the different name for different things? I showed you that we can use it for group supervision, for investigating the case of a supervisee, but I can use it as well for the reflection, how I am in the relationship with the supervisees in the group. Any other ideas how we can use it? Oh, Merlin writes, mapping can be useful with teams. Yeah, definitely. That's a wonderful tool for a team.
Yeah, it reminds me of constellations with a team, especially the leader who's not there anymore. Yeah, the previous leader. And what's the relationship of the team to and the organization to the previous leader? How they've been recognized.
Wonderful. I would actually encourage you sometimes to ask every member of the team to draw this kind of social atom of a team and then put it somewhere, either on a physical wall if you are together in a space, or in the virtual wall, and see it, how they are different and what it means, how to make this team effective in they visualize or see the things in this way.
Thank you.
So yeah, Merlin, thank you. Any other uses you can think of? Would like to unmute yourself and maybe share how you've used it. What would you do with it?
Inga, I can see using this even in my as introspection for myself. And I think that particularly I love, so I was a therapist before for a couple of years and did my master's in that level. And what I always found so significant was the size of the symbol, not only the person, but asking them to draw the symbol and what was the size. And sometimes it was interesting to see that they would even put the name like on the side of it. So that, let's say it was a triangle, but rather than putting Dan in the middle, they write it along the side. So it was just an opening for a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm very careful in my coaching to try and leave all that analysis stuff behind me and make it an inquiry as to what they see.
There is this great book by Giacomucci about sociometry and social work. Wonderful source for group supervisors and team coaches. Honestly, one of the best books I can recommend. And he says similar things, yeah? Like, okay, we can give people symbols because it simplifies the process and make it easier. However, if we ask them to create the symbols, It will be interesting how they do it, what will be there. And as well, there will be no discussion. Why star here or why triangle here? But thank you, Bart, for reminding me. The size of the symbol is important as well, because it shows the significance, and we try to make sense with it. Another version of atom, as you can see, the names Moreno used were very much connected with the, what's going on in science there, because atom, I think, was a huge word at the time. So we had the role atom. The role atom, it's connected with this personality theory. He had this role theory developed in 53. So the role atom is sometimes called the role diagram. And we actually look at ourselves using sizes of circles or whatever shapes you want, what different roles I have. Sometimes we can even get deeper and, like, let's say, ask, okay, so let's look at this volunteer role. What are sub-roles in this role? And I feel it might be very, like, I like inviting, when I do meet check-in with my group supervision, I invite people to see what roles they take on in this group. We've been working for a few months together regularly. Let's think about these roles we are taking in these groups. And I do it as well, because it's not only that I'm a supervisor or you supervisee, but as well, sometimes we are co-supervisors. Sometimes I'm a joker. Sometimes I'm, a sensitive one, and sometimes I'm a rebel. We've got these different roles we bring into the group, and it's a wonderful tool for a check-in, especially when we work in together for some time. Okay, let me check. I can see some things in a. I will put the author in a chat in a minute. Yeah. As well, if I don't have enough time, please, I will put my LinkedIn again. I will be happy to share the biography, sorry, with you. Okay, there is another tool which is very important, and I think I use it all the time in team coaching, and I use it all the time in group supervision. It's not Atom this time, but it's something which is called sociometric star. So basically, we look at what's going on, who speaks to whom, how often, who is the most active, if this person responds, who don't they respond to? And that's why I believe that team coaching needs to be done by two people, because one person is engaged in here and now, the others can make this kind of drawings and observations. But that's a wonderful tool for us to observe what's going on in this team. And in the group supervision, we can draw some basic sociometric star. Like, I've noticed that in this group, we develop certain order. Like the person X speaks first, and then this person responds. Or there are some people who hardly ever got topics, and there are people who always get topics, and so on. And we can show something to the group supervision as well with this sociometric star. Yeah. So basically, this is a visual representation of the preference and choices individuals make within a group. And by the way, if you ever do group supervision in the physical room, there is a very basic thing. Let's say you've got 6 people in the room and 3 people presented cases. Or let's say you've got 7 and 3 people presented cases, yeah? And you can ask, instead of what do you prefer, what case do you think we need to start on, you actually can use a little bit sociometric star here by saying, okay, you've got 2 hands. So please, I will count to 5, and at 5, show up with a choice of hands, what cases you want to discuss. And you can use 2 hands for one case if you really want to, if this is the case you really want to start. So this is like a physical representation. I try to do it virtually. It is hard to be done, I'm honest with you. It's just like, I didn't know how to make that happen, but whenever I have a privilege, and I'm happy because I do some face-to-face supervision now with a local university here for coaches who coach inside this university, and we do it very often, and it shows some, because there's no intellectual discussion. Like people really show their preferences. And after a few times, we can analyze that there are as well dominant preferences over these preferences, because I contracted with a team if I can take a photo every time we do this, so we can see like what is prevailing. And there are some dynamics, there are some preferences, that somebody cases are chosen more often than somebody else. What does it tell us? Of course, as I said, it requires certain contracting with a team, because it's go deeper around the group dynamic as well, in understanding of a group dynamic. I'm curious as well. I told you that it could be used for group supervision, for mid check-in. It could be used for team coaching, any other uses of this sociometric star. And what is important? The line and direction is important. The sizes of the people grow because of the interaction level. Where else do you feel we can use it? Or maybe some ideas about adaptation as well. Who would like to share?
Well, I do a lot of facilitation in groups, and I think it would be very interesting to show the group what's actually happening, or who is, and the sizes would be really important to encourage people to either pull back a little bit or to step in a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you, Jane. So I see application in facilitation as well, when the team needs to either finalize or make decision or deliver something, and so on and so on.
I'll just add something about with stakeholder head mapping. Actually, Rekha just mentioned it in the chat, but I use it I do a lot with women and leadership. And so when there's been a merger and acquisition, who do you need to know? How well do you know them? And I use different dotted lines, so not just the traditional and so on.
Yeah, that's interesting. We could do the sociometric star, ask a team for some external stakeholders as well, so they can see like, who is the stakeholder that interacts with us the most? How often? Let's think about the last quarter or last month or last weeks and so on. And it shows something as well about the external processes and impact, and who impact, what is missing here, who is not impacting us, because that's one of the things we can look at it. Yeah, who is not active, where do we need more energy, where do we need to bring more flow? Okay, any others ideas? Okay, so when you decide to actually do a little bit of acting, and this is a visual that AI created for me. I asked AI to help me create a visual that will represent double mirror and role reversal, because these are three basic things we use in acting in the psychodrama. So the double, this is the technique is used to help a person express thoughts and feelings in a safe way. They might not be able to articulate, so during a session, another participant or even a supervisor is a double of this person. It's like act out the protagonist. And that's why it's so important to express freely, because the tele takes place there. Yeah, to express freely what I'm feeling when I'm acting you out. If I feel some positive or some challenging emotions, or maybe something is going on in my body. But generally, as you can see, the double concept is very much present in constellation in field. That fields gets the message. That's why we ask about that, but that's the origin in it, like to make it safer. Sometimes people will not express what they feel, so let's find a stand-in, an actor, and they are allowed to express everything what they want, because they act, but of course they express something they feel in this moment right now. In therapy, is actually kind of important that the therapists try to promote positive messages in being a double. So that's not what we're going to do in the supervision, a group supervision. And I would say even if somebody uses it in a coaching or somebody uses it in a team coaching. Yeah, but this is a safe way. The mirror is another technique that protagonist is outside of the play. They choose the actors, they choose the double, the person who is them, you know, and they reenact what was described. So basically the protagonist does like, oh, say this, say that, do this reaction, hide, or like, and they show it to, they act it out to the protagonist as a play. And this is a mirror. A supervisee protagonist, a client, a patient looks into. And this acting out is very enlightening because we start to see the certain dynamics. But you see, this is in this role play, a person who brings the case, they don't take part in it. They direct this play, but then they look at this play in the mirror. And the third element is the role reversal technique that involves protagonists stepping in somebody else's shoes. Like, let's say about the stakeholders Maureen you brought into. And we realized that there is the stakeholders of this coaching process, which really triggers me. And I have this strong tell about this person. So I'm stepping in, this is a role reversal, and I'm looking I'm acting out in this, like there's my double and there is me, and we acting out like improv in the moment to see what's going on. And that's very interesting. This is not intellectualized. This is not like changing perspectives that I go to space, but I'm actually, you know, there's a character. Let's say that we've got a group supervision. I am a supervisee who brings a case. And I think, okay, could you please, Jean Elvire, be me, be my double? And then I am this challenging person or challenging emotion or challenging things in it. And we improvise conversation or some situation between us. And as well, it brings a lot of different kind of insight. You'll be surprised how much insight it brings because nothing is scripted here. So it's a little bit different that I mirror, because mirror, everything is scripted. I tell you what to say and you act it out for me. So I see something. Okay. If you wanna, by the way, I'm happy to share this presentation with you, but if you want to take a print screen of explanation. Yeah. Stanley, I can see your hand risen.
I just, you know, some of the tools are really very interesting and helpful. I have participated in psychodramas, and there can be some very deep emotions that can arise. And so I really feel I could use some of these tools. However, to conduct a really effective psychodrama, I would want to do that with someone who's trained, because it really, you have no idea. As you said, it's very spontaneous. It's very, you have no idea what's going to come up or come out. You know, even role-playing situations can be very challenging, I guess. And you do have to have enough time, as you mentioned, for the closure. So an hour sometimes is certainly not enough time to do. That's what my concern is.
Yes, Sunny, that's why this is, whenever I contract that we're going to do some elements of psychodrama, even though I've got this 5-year school behind me, I've got diploma, I'm certified psychodramatist, I am a coach and a coach supervisor. So we do elements of that. I would like to revive the knowledge of sociometry, because I think it's something missing in education, especially when I look at the education of team coaches. I think that would be a wonderful tool for them, and I think for group supervisors as well. However, this is important. When you want to do role play, have a lot of time for that. So for me, minimum of 90 minutes. And as well, it's more about contracting elements of it. So I try to contract with my team. I actually encourage, even if we are offline, I would love us to work with our buddies. Somehow, it's not only to tell me intellectually how you feel, but I would encourage us to show us how you feel. Or maybe use your body as an expression by positioning yourself somewhere in the room, because we can actually even use the very simple psychodramatic warm-up tool by saying, okay, show me now by positioning yourself somewhere in the view here, what is your engagement level? And the person can stand up and stand. And then when they show this engagement level or somebody can be like this, yeah, a group supervisor can take the picture of that and they share it with a group and ask, okay, so what can we see here? That's a very interesting element, but we need to contract it with people. Are they comfortable with doing this? Yeah, with their bodies, because it's using your body as an acting tool. But yes, Sunny, I do agree. So no trauma, definitely no trauma. Try to talk about challenges, or this, like, I would even sometimes love to talk to people about opportunities or some great successes they had in coaching. And then we can act something out that is usually positive. I'm looking at the time, there are 3 minutes left. Lily, Barb, I can see your question, but Lily really asked me to be on time. So Barb, we know each other from the supervision training. So would it be okay if we move this conversation after, like with a question, Barb? Thank you. So
It wasn't a question, it was a comment that the magic box that Lily does is really kind of a very powerful way. And some of this is very much included.
Yeah.
Thank you. What a lovely way to end, Barb. So on that note, also, you might be interested to know that John Whittington will be joining us on in March as well for our March session. He does systemic constellation work, and as well, he's going to be at our conference, and he's also going to do a workshop in Victoria, BC for those that might be interested in July. Next month, it will be Damien talking about AI in supervision. So I know it's a hot topic in our field. So please do come join us for that. And the virtual conference link is in the chat room. Also, coaching supervision registry. If you're interested or want to continue, we open it twice a year because it is a lot of admin heavy work. So twice a year, if you want to continue or to join, please contact Damien. It's $100 for 2 years to have your name and bio and picture up on the registry. Thank you, Inga. That was lovely. Lots of information, lots of things to think about, lots of tools. I am grateful for you for attending and presenting. And thank you everyone for coming as well. Nice to see familiar faces and new faces. See you all in a future session every third Monday of the month, except April when we have our conference. So we'll see you at future events. Thanks for coming.
Be well, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.